What's up, everyone? It's TheRazoredEdge, and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2021, the sequel to the dreaded 2020. Hopefully, this marks the beginning of something good and something new for us all around the world. I kind of debated on even marking the New Year as a special occasion, but I think it's nice to have that kind of, something to look forward to and something to hopefully motivate and lift our spirits after the rough year that we all had. So, moving into, what this channel is all about, we're always here to talk about Gears of War. So, we always kind of mark the beginning of the year wondering what's going to happen with the franchise and what's on the way. So I've kind of made a list of things of, everything to expect from Gears of War in 2021. Of course, all of it will be speculative and using my best judgment of, being here since pretty much the beginning of Gears of War to kind of maybe assess what is on the way for the franchise throughout this year. So, to get stuck into things and, pretty big one, I have Gears of War 6 written here, and, I was actually really shocked that after Gears 5, like, pretty much, a couple weeks after everyone had played the story, played some multiplayer, that I had already seen people talking about Gears 6. It's one of the fastest, it's one of the kind of fastest conversation developments I've ever seen when it comes to a game. I know other games kind of experience that, like Call of Duty has its yearly release. It launches, and then a couple months later, people are already talking about and hearing whispers of what the next Call of Duty is. But when it comes to Gears is like, 2-3 years cycle minimum, so it was quite surprising to hear it. So, should we be expecting Gears 6 this year? I highly doubt it. I think because it's a mix of things, right? Gears 5 basically just had a relaunch on Xbox Series X, so that happened in November of 2020, only a couple months ago at this point, and I see that as kind of marking, a bit of longevity when it comes to Gears 5, and, we had Operation 5, and then we've also had the Hivebusters campaign, which is the first expansion, campaign expansion for a Gears of War game since Gears of War 3, really, like with Ram Shadow. I guess we technically had Aftermath in Gears of War Judgment, but that was, I believe that came with Gears of War Judgment. Like, it was a cut piece of the Gears of War 3 campaign that we were allowed to play in Gears of War Judgment from the get-go. So, my best assessment is that Gears 6 is not really on the table from the Coalition, like, as of right now. It's obviously, a sequel to Gears 5 will happen. At the very most, my best guess is that this year we'll see, at, like, kind of whatever. Basically, E3's kind of gone away, but, when whatever's happening in June of 2021, when, there's all the game trailers and stuff like that, I think that at the very most, we will get it, like, an announcement of it being in development, like a logo on the screen or something like that. But even that, I think they would want to wait and give, the best initial presentation as possible with some gameplay and a proper trailer and that kind of thing. And, I think it would be nice if they just fully knuckled down on Gears 5. There's lots to come, hopefully, in terms of content, and that's what we're here to discuss. So the next thing I have here on the list is future operations. So we've recently just had Operation 5, which has been probably the biggest operation for Gears 5 so far, and definitely my favorite operation. The fact it was themed with Hollow Storm and Gears of War 2, and it was like a themed tour of duty. It had stuff that was all to do with Gears of War 2. You had Ty, Dizzy, Scourge. We had the return of River. Nexus, which is kind of like it's a brand new map, but in the tone and era of Gears of War 2. I think it would be nice if future operations were kind of continued in that kind of pattern. I'll be kind of curious to see if operations continue forward in the same format that they have been, because the Coalition have stated that they would like to release maps more frequently via their developer live streams. So it is possible that maybe the structure of an operation will change. it's a few months. It's like a couple months between operations, so we get that map drop, and then then we get our tour. Everyone does their tour, they play the maps, and then it's like kind of a, it's nice that we get skins throughout the period of a few weeks, but since that's all it is, it can kind of, for a lot of people, that's not enough to hold their attention. So I'd be curious to see if maybe the format of that changes, maybe if we'll get maps more regularly, that kind of thing. So be interesting to see exactly how that happens. And I actually, on the list, I had written down more maps. So I'll be curious to see if maybe the format of the operations change, if we'll get like maybe if the operations stay the same, maybe we'll get mid-operation map drops, that kind of thing. I always harken back to Gears of War 3, was it? Was it Gears of War 3 where there was like a booster? It was like a booster map pack or something, and it had Clock Tower and Raven Down in it, I believe. That's just from memory. As far as I'm aware, if I'm correct, let me know, or if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments down below. But there was something like that for one of the Gears of War games. But I'd love to see more of that, more in between major content, that we're still getting, new things to play and new things to experience. And then obviously another thing I have down here is new characters, new weapon skins. Obviously there was a bit of a leak recently that showed some future content that's coming. Some of that could be finished, unfinished, planned for the future, that kind of thing. And I just want to say that just because stuff is in the game files early doesn't mean that it's necessarily being drip fed. A lot of game developers create skins and stuff ahead of time. Like, think of it this way: if they were dropping a skin every time as soon as it's done, that's a developer or an artist that's rushing to get a skin out by next week. It's like, okay, you got that skin done now, you got to get one done for the next shop the next day, and it's not really the most efficient way of doing things. So a lot of times, and this is not just the Coalition, the best way for them to do things is to plan ahead, get things done, have a release schedule. Now, should that release schedule change? Will it change? That is very possible. So we'll see what happens with future operations. So in terms of, new characters, we'll get the weekly store rotations. I'm sure we'll get more special events to unlock stuff. We had Gearsmas with Father Gearsmas Marcus. We've had Murder Pool Lizzie for Halloween. I think we'll see more unlocks kind of oriented like that. Maybe more stuff connected to crossovers, like we had Gabe Diaz as an unlock for Gears Tactics. Maybe we'll see more stuff like that. But I'll be super curious to see. And then in terms of weapon skins, that'll be a similar thing. A lot of this stuff will obviously be incorporated into future Tour of Duties. So it'd be cool to just see more regular weapon skins and more regular characters, and hopefully a lot of fan favorites returning. For me, obviously the Locust Sniper being the #1. I'm going to be using the hell out of that when that releases, hopefully in the future. So next up, I have written down new events for Horde, Escape, and Multiplayer. So one thing that they did state that they wanted to do is that, the PvE community felt like they weren't getting an awful lot of variety in terms of events. There hasn't been a whole lot. Operation 5 was really the beginning of a lot of that for Gears 5. But I think we'll be seeing a lot of that here in 2021. We've had Jingle Juvies and Classic Horde, which has been a big one. I hope to see that evolve and become a major part of Gears 5. I know there's a lot of people, a lot of classic Gears of War fans that, they don't really like the abilities and the fortifications and all that. They want that classic bare bones Horde back, and that's what Classic Horde is. So I hope to see the Coalition kind of evolve that and bring that into the fray. And maybe when classic players play that and enjoy that, they might be like, maybe I will see what it's like to level up a class and see how fun that aspect of it is. There's no harm in having multiple options, and I think we'll have a lot of new stuff for Escape and for Versus as well. For Versus, I'm hoping to see a lot more new game modes. I know there's been a lot of classic stuff like Classic OSOC, Shoddy Snipes, Boom Snipes, King of the Nasher. I know, and then variations of that, like Nasher's Only Free for All. Like, I'd love to see them do stuff with we have the Scorcher back now, so you could have like an Incendiaries and Scorchers only mode. You could have, a Breaker Mace only free-for-all, stuff like that. just stuff that hasn't been done before in multiplayer. And it'll be interesting to see if they somehow can incorporate some of the abilities and mutators from the campaign, or you know, some of the abilities that they've actually integrated into the game in ways already. If you guys have played Guardian, you'll know that the leader actually has like an ultimate ability, which is basically like a variation of its previous ability to see through walls and see players, but it's turned it into like a cooldown ability. So it'd be cool to see if they could incorporate that into some multiplayer events in the future. And then in terms of, you know, on the subject of new game modes, this one I really don't know about. In terms of if we'll get anything significant. Now, I know they've addressed, obviously, you know, horde events, like, you know, special variation event type things. But in terms of game modes like, you know, Wingman and Overrun and things like that, I really don't know. The way that the developers have spoken on the Gears of War developer streams, it seems like stuff like that may not be happening, but that could kind of maybe be a, you know, I won't say deception, but you know the way some devs will say no, and then, you know, oh, surprise, it really was happening all along. But from my best judgment, it seems sincere enough that I don't really see something like Wingman or Overrun happening. But I think Overrun, absolutely not, because that needs kind of unique maps in particular. It needs like a whole UI change. It needs to basically be like made completely from the ground up. But for something like Wingman, that's like a UI change and kind of like a variation of free-for-all. So that would be the more likely of the two of those, I would say. If that was going to happen. If there's any other modes you guys think that could be coming or could potentially come to Gears 5 this year, let me know in the comments. I think, if anything, Wingman would be likely, and then this one has been one that a lot of people in the community have been pushing for, and I think would make sense. Would be like a beast mode of some kind. We know that Jack has his ability to hijack enemies, and so the mechanics are in the game to be able to, you know, play as the Pouncer, or play as a Reject, or play as the Warden, you know, that kind of stuff. But, like, one thing I always try to stop myself from saying is that game development is not easy. It's not just as simple as taking that mechanic and putting it into something, but the kind of, the potential there of, you know, that mechanic being there gives them something to work with, where it isn't just them starting from scratch. So if there's any game modes you guys can think of that kind of are similar to current modes in Gears 5, and could potentially be turned into something as a future, like brand new multiplayer mode, like Wingman or Beast mode, like those two make sense to me, because, you know, we have the hijack ability, and, you know, we have AI enemies in the game, so, you know, it's kind of a reverse horde mode in a way. They could do a brand new PvP variant. This is, of course, all, you know, speculation of what could potentially happen. But yeah, in terms of new game modes, I'd say it's possible. I'm not really sure, just based off of how they've spoken about it on stream previously. But like I said, or like I will say, is that any possibilities and any news I hear, I'll be obviously talk about it on the channel, so stay tuned, and hopefully we get something awesome to play in the future. And then next here I have tuning updates. So a big thing, some people don't like the way Gears 5 plays. They feel like it's not necessarily kind of that Gears of War cover-based shooter playstyle that, you know, Gears of War 1, 2, and 3, especially Gears 1 and 2, kind of brought to the franchise. So there is a tuning update that's coming to Gears 5, and you guys have seen kind of the beginnings of it, that the game is basically turning into a 4v4 direction, so kind of bringing it back to its roots with Gears of War 1 with 4v4. And then you guys might have seen the developer tuning test playlist that's been featured in Gears 5 through the later half of 2020. Basically, that's going to be injected into the main playlist of Gears 5, and that will be the kind of that's how the game will play. And my my short-term thoughts on it is that it's very similar to how Gears of War 2 feels, except without the issues of, you know, how clanky and glitchy and unresponsive that game had issues with. You know, that game was host-based. You know, Gears 5 has servers. There's a lot of improvements to Gears. I know people have some issues with Gears 5, but one thing Gears 5 is that it's a lot more consistent than Gears of War 2 is online, and there's no denying that. And I think Gears 5, with that movement, it definitely changes the feel, and it definitely feels a lot more like classic Gears. So if you guys weren't a fan of how Gears 5 felt around launch or throughout early operations, I definitely consider giving Gears 5 a try this year once that tuning goes live in the main game. And then another thing I have listed here is more expansions. And obviously, like I said, this is pure speculation here. What I have written here exactly is more expansions, Gears 5 and Gears Tactics. So I'm kind of looking at Hivebusters and the success of it. It really has, if you look online, if you look at reviews, if you look at, you know, social media, if you look just at, you know, content creators, you know, just general the player base, everyone seems very happy with the Gears Hivebusters DLC. And it was a short story, but it really captured what is possible in modern Gears of War games, and, you know, stories from different parts of the Gears of War universe. What I'm hoping, and it wouldn't necessarily be a 2021 thing, but maybe it's something that could start development for Gears 5 in 2021, is that, you know, maybe the success of it could lead to more potential expansions in Gears 5 itself. One thing I learned recently is that Gears of War 3 was actually supposed to have more than just one expansion with Ram Shadow. There were supposed to be multiple DLCs along with it, but those got cancelled. So maybe this is something that the Coalition could deliver on with Gears 5. Give us some classic stories within Gears 5. Give us some new stories. Give us stuff that's leading into Gears 6, that kind of thing. But like I said, I'm not trying to like get everyone's hopes up, but I'm just like trying to list what's potentially possible now that that Hivebusters campaign and DLC has been so successful. And then what I also said is that I mentioned Gears Tactics there as well. You know, Gears Tactics, we got the base DLC, and then it had that major title update or not base DLC, we got the base game, and then it had that major title update that introduced the deviant enemies and Jack and that kind of thing. And this is totally off the wall speculation, but Gears Tactics is called Gears Tactics base game when you load it up on Xbox Live. So I'm wondering if, you know, that leaves it open for potentially an expansion in the future, like another alternative story, kind of similar to the Hivebusters DLC, but in Gears Tactics. It'd be cool to see them expand on that. I think that game was really good. I think a lot of people liked it, especially the customization, so it'd be cool to see that potentially get an expansion, but I'm not going to delve too deep into that just because that's pretty wild speculation on my part, but it's entirely possible. And then one thing I wanted to touch on is that there was an article in 2020 that mentioned an unannounced project from the Coalition. Now, in a lot of people's heads, people might be saying this, oh, that's clearly Gears 6, but just from, like I said earlier in the beginning of the video, that just from my best guesstimation, I don't think so. Since Gears 5 has basically just had a relaunch, that kind of says to me that this is you know, the Coalition knuckling down and sticking with Gears 5 to turn into the game that they really wanted to be. And then there was another rumor going around about the Coalition actually working on the Perfect Dark reboot, but that rumor was kind of squashed because at the Game Awards it was announced that the studio working on that is the Initiative, so it is not the Coalition. And then also another rumor cropped up about them the Coalition potentially helping with the multiplayer on that, but I would doubt that, since they are primarily a Gears of War focused studio, and I believe that if that's what they are, that's what they're sticking with, that all their projects and focus are entirely on Gears of War. I think they did help with the PUBG Xbox One port in the past, but I don't think it's been taking their full attention by any means. But yeah, there's a lot there. You know, we talked about Gears 6. You know, Gears 5 just basically had its relaunch at the end of 2020, so I see 2021 being a big year for the game, and I really think they're going to push out a lot of content. You know, we just had Hive Busters, so for any of you who haven't, you know, played Gears 5 in a long time, I highly recommend jumping in, playing the initial campaign if you didn't complete it. You know, jumping in for Hive Busters, you will unlock some character skins for playing that, which is something I'm really happy to see. That was one thing that was missing from launch, was, you know, the campaign to multiplayer unlocks to kind of guide people into play the multiplayer aspect of the game, so super happy to see that. You know, future operations will be giving us more maps and skins and that kind of thing. We'll have new Versus events, new Horde events, escape events, multiplayer events. And speaking of those, we also now have the daily and weekly challenge rotations, which give you, you know, character XP, Gears coins, and cards to level up your stuff. So there's constantly something to do each and every day and each and every week in Gears 5. Potential new game modes, and wishful thinking on my part, obviously, being Wingman and Beast mode. Something like Overrun wouldn't be coming in there, and if you guys can think of any other potential modes that could end up in the game, let me know in the comments. You know, there could be stuff like Annex or Domination, or you know, there was Breakthrough from Gears Judgment. There's loads of stuff. If you guys have any ideas, definitely drop them in the comments down below. And obviously, present those ideas yourself. If you have really big ideas, make videos, make posts on Reddit, the forums, social media, that kind of thing. And then obviously potential expansions, just due to the popularity and success of the Hivebusters DLC. Stuff like that could be begin development this year, or could already be planned. Or, you know, Gears Tactics may potentially have an expansion if that was already planned. But like I said, that's kind of wishful thinking on my part. And then the unannounced project from the Coalition. I actually didn't finish my point on this, is that if this is a really big bit of speculation, but, you know, one of the biggest demands has been a Phoenix collection, of the Marcus Phoenix collection. How many years have we been talking about the Marcus Phoenix collection? The conversation has come up and died down and come up and died down, and it really swelled in 2020. Even a lot of Xbox and Microsoft employees got behind it. So if anything is possible, I think that it's that. And it could either be something as big as the Marcus Phoenix collection, you know, all the games remastered put together, or it could be, you know, something like the original games coming to PC, kind of in the form that they are, but obviously optimized and that kind of thing. But yeah, there's loads of possibilities, or it could just be something completely off the wall, like a new genre for Gears of War, something like that. There's a lot to be excited about, and I think this will be a really good year for Gears. So if you guys are excited for more Gears of War content from me, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to my channel with notifications on. Share the video around if you really enjoyed it. Follow me on Twitter at TheRazoredEdge. My Discord link is in the description if you want to discuss Gears of War with me whenever. And if you guys want to, you know, help support my content into 2021, help me to keep being able to do stuff like this, you can become a channel member by hitting the join button down below. You get some kind of exclusive emotes and badges and stuff to stand out, as well as some extra perks. But that has been it, and I will see you guys next time.